Um, when you look at a massive, sprawling piece of architecture, like a grand Gothic cathedral from a distance.
Yeah, and it looks completely perfect.
Exactly. The sweeping buttresses, the stained glass, the towering spires, it just feels flawless.
Yeah.
But if you walk right up to it, pull out a magnifying glass and stare really closely at the mortar, you start seeing the cracks.
Right, the mismatched bricks.
Yeah, or the places where the original builders maybe ran out of funding and just took a shortcut.
I mean, the illusion of a cohesive, divine structure gives way to the very messy reality of its construction. You realize human hands made it, and, well, human hands are inherently flawed, especially when trying to build something on a colossal scale.
Exactly. And today, we are pointing that exact magnifying glass straight at the mortar of one of the most globally beloved wizarding franchises of all time. We're pulling from a massive stack of fan theories and critical observations today for our deep dive. And our mission here is pretty simple.
Right, we're looking at the logic.
Yeah. While magic is an incredible narrative tool that can solve almost any problem, it apparently creates these massive, sprawling administrative and logistical headaches. So we're exploring how even the most deeply constructed world building can completely unravel when you apply just a little bit of real-world logistical pressure to it.
What's fascinating here is that picking at these logical gaps isn't about ruining the fun or tearing down the story.
Oh, all right.
It's more of an exercise in reverse engineering the fiction. We're trying to understand the constant grinding friction between narrative convenience, what the author actually needs to happen next, and logical world building, which is how the characters really should behave given the tools they have at their disposal.
Okay, let's unpack this right at the top with the highest stakes possible. We're talking life, death, and war. When a society has access to literal reality-bending magic, why do they suddenly forget to use it when the fate of the world is on the line?
It's a recurring theme, honestly. The magic system itself has some glaring logical voids when you look at the spells and pacts that are available. Take Voldemort, for example.
Right.
You have a deeply paranoid, power-hungry dictator whose entire regime relies on absolute loyalty and fear. I mean, he is constantly battling spies, double agents, defectors.
His whole inner circle is a mess.
Exactly. So the obvious question is, why didn't he just mandate the unbreakable vow for every single Death Eater who joined his ranks?
Right, because if you take it and break his orders, you literally drop dead.
Mm-hmm.
Problem solved. But I'm actually going to push back on that a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you are a massive megalomaniac like Voldemort, doesn't an unbreakable vow sort of strip away the very thing dictators thrive on?
How do you mean?
Well, a magically bound servant isn't actually loyal. They're just handcuffed to you.
What?
I feel like tyrants want the psychological submission, the terror of them actively choosing to obey rather than just flipping a magical switch that turns their followers into biological robots.
Huh. That's actually a really compelling psychological reading of his character. He wants to be worshipped, not just mechanically obeyed.
Exactly.
However, purely from a tactical standpoint, his refusal to use it, especially on high-risk operatives like Severus Snape, completely cost him the entire war.
Oh, tactically was a disaster for sure.
But the failure to use foolproof magic isn't just a villain problem. The good guys, specifically the governing body of the Ministry of Magic, are equally guilty of just ignoring their own resources.
Oh, you mean the post-war trials?
Yes.
This is where the world building runs headfirst into the wall of political realism. After the First War, you had these wealthy, influential elites like Lucius Malfoy claiming they were simply under the imperious curse to avoid going to prison.
Exactly. It was a massive crisis for their justice system. You had innocent people being thrown into Azkaban without a trial, while the guilty walked free based on flimsy excuses. And sitting right there, literally in their inventory, is Veritaserum.
This drives me absolutely crazy. Why on earth isn't the ministry using Veritaserum in the courtroom?
It makes zero sense.
You literally put 3 drops in a glass of water, ask the defendant, hey, are you a Death Eater? And boom, you have a flawless justice system. But instead, you have innocent people, like Sirius Black, rotting in a soul-sucking prison for over a decade.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to ask yourself a dark question. Does a corrupt government actually want objective truth?
Oh, wow.
The ministry is heavily funded by the exact same wealthy aristocrats who were claiming they were mind-controlled. If you introduce an infallible truth serum into legal proceedings, you aren't just catching terrorists.
You are exposing the corruption of your own political donors.
Exactly.
Wow, so the plot hole might actually just be a deeply cynical reflection of real-world politics. They didn't use it because willful ignorance basically protected the elite.
Precisely. But this kind of selective amnesia isn't just a government problem. Individuals do it too, especially when their literal survival is on the line.
Yeah.
Look at the Fidelius charm.
Oh, yeah.
It is the quintessential example of authorial necessity overriding internal logic.
James and Lily Potter. They need to hide from Voldemort. So they use the Fidelius charm, and they make their friend, Peter Pettigrew, the secret keeper.
Right.
Of course, Peter betrays them, and they die. But later in the lore, it is explicitly established that a person can be their own secret keeper. I mean, Bill Weasley does it.
It creates a staggering logical contradiction.
It's like owning a state-of-the-art, impenetrable safe. But instead of keeping the combination in your own head, you write it on a sticky note and hand it to your flakiest, most cowardly roommate.
That is exactly what it is.
Why on earth would two parents, who are desperate to protect their infant son, hand the keys to their survival to a third party when the magic allows them to hold the keys themselves?
Well, because if they hold the keys, the story ends before it begins. As a writer, if you invent a foolproof magical solution, your characters can never actually use it properly, or else the dramatic tension just evaporates.
Right, there's no story.
Exactly. If the Potters hide themselves perfectly, there is no betrayal, no orphaned protagonist, and no inciting incident for a 7-book epic. The magic has to be artificially dumbed down by the characters so the plot can actually happen.
It's the ultimate burden of inventing a perfect tool.
Absolutely.
And if the rules governing magical concepts and spells are inconsistent, the actual physical magical artifacts the characters use are even worse. I mean, the wand lore in this universe completely fractures its own established rules.
The foundational rule of wand lore, which the audience is reminded of constantly, is that the wand chooses the wizard.
Right.
It implies a deeply sentient, almost spiritual connection between the magical core, the wood, and the individual channeling the magic.
Which sounds beautiful and poetic, right up until you look at Ron Weasley in his first year, using a hand-me-down wand that belonged to his older brother, Charlie. If you're listening to this, you've probably wondered at some point how the wizarding economy works, because this makes zero sense. If the wand chooses the wizard, giving Ron someone else's wand is like forcing him to wear someone else's prescription glasses and expecting him to see perfectly.
The logistical implications of that hand-me-down are baffling. Think about it. Charlie Weasley is alive.
Yeah, he's fine.
He is actively working with dragons in Romania, which is an incredibly dangerous job that absolutely requires a wand. So why did Charlie give up his perfectly good wand in the first place?
Right. Did you just, go buy a new one? And if the family could afford a new wand for Charlie, why wouldn't they just leave Charlie's old wand with him and buy Ron a new one?
It points to a magic system that treats its core tools as highly personalized, sentient artifacts in one scene, and then just interchangeable, disposable commodities in the next.
And it gets worse when you look at the mechanics of power scaling. Remember when Harry gets into that scuffle with Fenrir Greyback at Malfoy Manor?
Oh.
To cast an extra powerful spell, Harry physically grabs 3 wands in one hand, fires a spell through all of them simultaneously, and it works like a massive concussive blast.
Which fundamentally breaks the sentient connection rule. I mean, if magic is just raw energy and multiple wands act as parallel conduits, then wands aren't spiritual partners.
They're just batteries.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I have a theory about this.
Let's hear it.
What if wand lore is actually just a massive, century-spanning marketing scam invented by Ollivander to maintain a monopoly?
Oh, wow.
Think about it. Hagrid's wand is literally snapped in half, stuffed inside a pink umbrella, and he casts magic just fine.
That's true.
Ron tapes a completely severed wand together with, normal adhesive tape, and while it backfires, it still channels energy. If you can channel magic through a broken stick, an umbrella, or 3 random wands you just picked up off the floor, maybe the wand chooses the wizard mantra is just a brilliant sales pitch.
A highly cynical, capitalist critique of Diagon Alley. I like it. But realistically, it highlights how magical items in this universe scale in power and functionality, depending entirely on the immediate needs of the scene.
Definitely.
And nowhere is that more obvious than with the Time Turner.
Oh, the Time Turner, the artifact that breaks the universe so badly, the author had to contrive a way to destroy all of them later on.
It is the ultimate world-building mistake. You have the Ministry of Magic handing over a device capable of fundamentally rewriting human history to Hermione Granger, a 13-year-old girl.
It's wild.
And her mandate isn't to prevent wars or save lives, it's to take overlapping elective classes like Earthmancy.
Imagine you are an R, risking your life every single day, and you find out the government is risking a temporal paradox so a teenager doesn't miss a lecture on Muggle studies.
It's absurd.
And conversely, why isn't Voldemort moving heaven and earth to get one? He's a wizard utterly obsessed with conquering death and dominating history. If time travel exists and is just sitting in a ministry filing cabinet, Voldemort's primary objective should be acquiring it.
Well, when you introduce unrestricted time travel into a narrative, you inherently trivialize every conflict that precedes and follows it. Every tragedy becomes a choice because the characters could just go back and fix it.
Right, so the spells are contradictory, and the tools are either ignored or misused. Let's pivot to the environment where all of this is supposedly taught. The logistical setup of Hogwarts itself is an absolute nightmare.
To call it an administrative failure would be an understatement. I mean, the geographic logic alone is completely fractured. Let's just look at the commute.
Yes, the Hogwarts Express. It is iconic. Departing from platform 934 at King's Cross in London, chugging its way up through the gorgeous British countryside to Scotland. Visually stunning. Geographically insane.
Very true.
What about the students who don't live in the south of England? Cho Chang is canonically Scottish. Neville Longbottom's family is from Yorkshire.
The physical routing forces an entirely unnecessary bottleneck.
It's like forcing a passenger who lives in Chicago to fly all the way down to Miami, just so they can get on a connecting flight to Detroit.
That's a great analogy.
You are making kids from northern England and Scotland travel hours south to London, navigate a crowded Muggle train station, just to board a magical train that takes them all the way back north. It is an aggressively London-centric worldview.
Well, unless you view it as an authoritarian control measure.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Forcing all magical children to funnel through a single ministry-monitored checkpoint in the capital city ensures the government knows exactly who is going to the school and who isn't.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. It's less about convenience and more about centralized surveillance.
Yeah.
But once they actually get to the castle, the internal logic of the school's rules completely falls apart too.
Well, absolutely.
You have this ancient castle filled with heavy mechanical locks on the doors to keep students out of dangerous corridors.
Yeah.
Yet within weeks of arriving, every single first-year student is taught Alohomora, the unlocking charm.
Right.
Why even have physical locks if you are explicitly teaching 11-year-olds how to bypass them?
It leans heavily into the theme of whimsy overriding practicality. The environment is designed to feel ancient, secretive, and slightly dangerous to the reader. But functionally, if viewed as a real academic institution, the discipline and safety protocols are completely unhinged.
Unhinged is the perfect word.
Yeah.
Like in the first year, Harry and his friends break curfew. The explicit reason for curfew is that wandering the castle at night is a mortal threat. So how does the school punish them for being out at night?
By sending them out at night.
Yes, into the pitch-black, monster-infested Forbidden Forest to track down whatever is violently slaughtering unicorns.
The contradiction is stark. You punish children for risking their safety by actively placing them in an active combat zone. But beyond physical safety, the school's handling of psychological safety is completely warped by protagonist-centric physics.
Oh, you're talking about the Dementors in the third year.
Exactly.
These prison guards feed on happiness and force people to relive their worst memories. And Harry is deeply, severely affected by them. He completely passes out on the train because their presence forces him to hear his mother being murdered.
And the narrative explanation provided is that Harry's extreme foundational trauma makes him uniquely susceptible to their aura compared to his peers.
Right. But what about Neville?
Exactly.
Neville's parents were tortured into permanent insanity by Death Eaters when he was a baby, the exact same age Harry was when he was orphaned.
Yeah.
Neville regularly visits his parents in the hospital. He has to sit there and look at the hollow shells of who they used to be, knowing they don't even recognize him. That is profound, agonizing, ongoing trauma. Yet, when the Dementors board the Hogwarts Express, Neville doesn't have a massive physiological collapse. He just gets a bit cold and sad like everyone else.
It really exposes how the world-building bends to serve the Chosen One narrative. The intricate mechanics of trauma and magical reactions are applied meticulously to Harry to elevate his status.
But those exact same mechanics are conveniently ignored when applied to secondary characters.
Yes, characters with arguably equal or even more complex dramatic backgrounds.
Which brings us to the architect of this entire chaotic environment, the man who oversees the curriculum, the safety protocols, and the grand strategy against Voldemort. We have to talk about Albus Dumbledore,
We do.
because his leadership choices might actually be the most glaring plot holes of the entire franchise.
Dumbledore is presented to the reader as the paramount of wisdom, right? The most powerful wizard of his age. Yet his timeline, his tactical decisions, and his general negligence frequently defy basic logic, starting from the very night the Potters were murdered.
The missing 24 hours. This timeline error is massive once you spot it.
It really is.
So Voldemort attacks the Potters in Godric's Hollow in the evening. Hagrid pulls baby Harry from the wreckage, borrowing Sirius Black's flying motorcycle to transport him. Yet, Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Hagrid don't converge on the Dursleys' house in Surrey until late the next night.
A flying motorcycle does not take 24 hours to cross a few hundred miles of British airspace.
Exactly. The wizarding world has been celebrating all day. So where was Hagrid with the bleeding, newly orphaned infant for an entire day and night? Did they stop at a pub?
It's a huge gap.
And when they finally do arrive, the way they handle this child is deeply, deeply concerning. You have three of the most powerful, intelligent, magical beings on the planet, and they just leave a one-year-old baby wrapped in a blanket on a freezing October doorstep in the middle of the night.
Without even ringing the doorbell to ensure he is received.
They just assume Petunia will find him when she puts the milk bottles out.
Yeah.
What if a stray dog wandered by?
Or if the temperature dropped below freeze.
Yeah, they don't cast a warming charm. They don't wait in the shadows. They drop the most important child in the world on a welcome mat and teleport away. It is staggering negligence.
And that negligence continues directly into how he manages the mysteries and threats within Hogwarts itself. Consider the Chamber of Secrets.
Oh, man.
50 years prior to Harry's second year, the chamber was opened, a monster attacked the students, and a girl named Myrtle was killed. Dumbledore was a teacher at the school when this happened. Myrtle's ghost takes up permanent residence in the exact bathroom where she died.
This might be my favorite logical gap in the whole series. Why didn't Dumbledore, at any point during those 50 years, just walk into the second-floor girls' bathroom and say, "Hey, Myrtle, how did you die?"
It's unbelievable.
Harry figures the whole thing out as a 12-year-old, literally, just by having a polite conversation with the victim.
It requires the greatest wizard of the age to lack basic deductive reasoning. And furthermore, once Harry actually slays the monster, a massive, ancient, basilisk Dumbledore apparently just leaves its gigantic, rotting corpse down in the plumbing.
Right. Basilisk venom is one of the rarest, most destructive substances on Earth.
The skin, the fangs.
Yeah, these are highly valuable, intensely dangerous alchemical ingredients. You'd think the headmaster would call in a ministry hazmat team to harvest it, or at least destroy it, rather than leaving a biological weapon festering under the school.
And then, of course, we have the Sorcerer's Stone in Harry's first year. Dumbledore acquires the most valuable alchemical object in existence, an artifact that grants infinite wealth and eternal life. He decides the safest place to hide it from a Dark Lord is a school filled with hundreds of children. And how does he secure it? With a series of traps.
Traps that a group of 11-year-olds bypass entirely on their own in one night. A giant chess set. A logic puzzle with potion bottles. Catching a flying key.
It's essentially an obstacle course.
If you are trying to deter the most dangerous dark wizard in history, why is your ultimate security system solvable by middle schoolers? And the real kicker. After Harry confronts Quirrell and nearly dies, Dumbledore just agrees to destroy the stone anyway.
Exactly.
If destroying it was an option on the table the whole time, why didn't they just do that in the first place?
The accumulation of these decisions paints a very strange portrait of the headmaster if we view them strictly as plot holes. He appears either wildly incompetent or dangerously negligent.
So what did this all mean? I want to throw a theory at you.
Okay, go for it.
What if Dumbledore deliberately made those traps easy? What if he intentionally left the basilisk down there, or purposefully ignored Myrtle? What if he wanted Harry to face Voldemort as an 11-year-old? Not to protect the stone, but as a test.
This raises an incredibly important question about literary archetypes.
Yeah.
If we shift our perspective from seeing Dumbledore as the kindly old mentor to viewing him as a Machiavellian general, the narrative transforms entirely.
Absolutely.
If he was secretly assessing Harry's courage, measuring his strength, and intentionally grooming him for an eventual necessary sacrifice, then these aren't accidental plot
Oh,
holes.
that is dark. That completely recontextualizes the whole series. The flaws in the logic become evidence of a chilling, calculated strategy.
And-
He's not a bad headmaster. He's a ruthless tactician raising a child soldier.
Exactly. And I think that brings us to the core synthesis of our deep dive today. Creating a watertight, expansive, magical universe is an almost impossible task for any author. When you introduce omnipotent tools, whether it's the ability to rewrite history, force absolute truth, or hide locations perfectly, you inherently create a world where every major conflict could be resolved in an afternoon.
Right.
So to write a compelling multi-book narrative, the author is forced to arbitrarily restrict those tools, which creates the very friction and logical gaps we've been examining.
And if you're listening to this, I want to make something very clear. Picking apart a story like this doesn't mean you don't love it.
Not at all.
Actually, it's the exact opposite. Caring enough to map out the geography of a fictional train, questioning the macroeconomics of wand manufacturing, debating the ethical obligations of a fictional headmaster, it proves just how deeply these worlds resonate with us.
Yeah.
We care enough to pull out the magnifying glass and really inspect the mortar.
Precisely. It is a testament to the enduring power of the world building. We treat it seriously enough to demand logical consistency from it, treating it as a living, breathing history rather than just words on a page.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over. Something to consider next time you revisit your favorite franchise. Do plot holes actually make a fantasy universe more enduring?
It's a great question.
Think about it. If every single logical gap was perfectly closed, if every spell had a flawless, impenetrable mathematical explanation, there would be nothing left for us to debate. There would be no fan theories to write, no alternative perspectives on Dumbledore's morality to explore decades later. Maybe, just maybe, the cracks in the cathedral's mortar are exactly what gives us the room to keep the magic alive ourselves.
A fascinating perspective.
Thanks for joining us as we brought out the magnifying glass. Keep looking closely, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.